Hey guys, it's so funny because I've been sitting out here doing some making phone calls and um, adding some stuff up and stuff. I've been out in the car for like an hour, and right when I start to film, that's when like people drive up. So it's just kind of funny how that always happens. But hey, thanks for joining me today. I want to talk about, have a message the divine has put on my heart, and it is kind of relating to the times that we're in. Like it's a little crazy, right? A lot of darkness, a lot of angst, a lot of instability, a lot of unknown, and I think sometimes it's people pursuing light, of people who um more aligned with being chosen, or walking, trying to find our purpose, trying to find um, connection with ourselves and with the divine and with creation. For some, through religion, but beyond religion, right? Through spirituality. And I think it's easy for us to feel like, okay, well, if I just stay in my bubble, I'll be all right. If I just stay safe in my home, or stay in my bubble, or stay in my perspective, I'm not going to pay any attention to what's going on, and I'll be all right. And there is a truth to that. There is a truth to what we focus on, we create, like we manifest. But there's also the power of being aware of what's going on so that we can change what manifests in the world, right? But in order to change what manifests in the world, to change the power of the matrix, to change the impact of the powers that have been, we have to be aware of what's going on, and we don't just do that in a bubble. And I was looking at something someone had put up yesterday, and it was like how Christianity teaches love and Buddhism teaches oh my gosh, the word just passed from me, but not really disassociation, but the letting go. And so I think there's a little bit of both that we need to have. We need to have love, which is active and focused, and there's a lot of love and action through Buddhism, the peace, right? The non-judgment. But anyway, so one of the things that the divine has heavily put on my heart is about the hijacking of Christianity, the hijacking of Yeshua's teachings, and how let me see. And the underlying hatred and weaponization of the church, and how we can look and see how supported this administration and a lot of the evils going on in the day are, and how for many of us who can feel like, oh wow, this is kind of new, this is really bad, but the same types of things that were going on today were the same things that were going on during the civil rights movement and during the occupation of Vietnam. They were going on through the colonization of the Americas, through when Rome took over the church and made it official. So this character, this aspect of the organized religion has been consistent throughout. Sometimes it's more dormant, and sometimes it is more prevalent. And we look at how when Rome took over, decided that it would legalize the church, it was because it was easy to control the people, to lead the people, to keep control of the nation. if you had them all believing the same thing, which is partly why they incorporated a lot of pagan rituals and activities and celebrations through the church as well. You know, it's amazing how Yeshua taught love, and you know, and I think one that I speak about a lot is how if you don't love your neighbor, there's no way that you can love the divine. And you know, we're supposed to love ourselves and then love our neighbors, and yet there's so much division and so much hatred and so much fear and so much division, you know, and we don't see how the powers that have been manipulate good-hearted people. I'm not saying or even implying that most people who go to church are bad people. What I am saying, what the divine wants us to look at and consider and to be aware of, to open our minds to, is the fact that these religions are being manipulated by other people. And so good people go because good people have good hearts, and a lot of times good people can be simple in their beliefs, you know, right and wrong, you know, respect your leaders, follow, you know, this person or that person or whatever. And sometimes they're easily manipulated without critical thinking. And as we can see in our American school system, is the ability to critically think has continually gone down. You know, people used to have an 8th grade, then, you know, it was like an average of an 8th grade education throughout the US, and now it's down to a 6th grade. And so, you know, when you get to 6th grade, you've not studied much world history or even, I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, our national history, but, you know, the world affairs, people don't really know a lot. And we are easily led when we don't know. One of the things that I've been thinking about is how it's talked about a lot in the Bible about Satan and Lucifer and the Bible and demons and you know, the angel of light deceiving people, you know, the great deceptor, and how the earth was this realm was given to him in some capacity. And yet throughout our religions, or throughout, let's just keep with Christianity, you don't hear much talked about Satan and his deception and his power even over the church. And you look at Cain and Abel, and you know, Cain was the first documented one to murder, right? And there's so much speculation because Genesis is so vague about the Garden of Eden and quote unquote the snake, you know, but really it was Satan in the Garden of Eden that tempted her, right? And so there is a theory that Cain was Lucifer's son because of the evil that the angels, when they fell and decided they were going to mate with women of the earth and teach them all kinds of things, that their corruption came into humanity. And so when we look at Cain's actions from that, and then we look and we look and see the world powers, right? The ruling class and all the atrocities that are associated with them and their perspective of what they own and what is theirs, and there's always been this perspective of what they want, they take. What they want is theirs. What they claim is theirs. It doesn't matter who else it was, because you just get rid of those people. You just dehumanize them. You, you know, if they have something you want, you take it. If they have labor you need, you take it. If they have resources in their land that you want, that you deem valuable, well, then you take it. You kill the people, you move the people, you claim the land. And this is all done, sanctioned through religion, sanctioned through Christianity, sanctioned through the betterment of all people, you know. And then we have these trickle down theories that, okay, if we let these few people, these ruling classes, do this stuff, then somehow it's going to be for the better of all people. And you know, and you got to question or think about, like, why does the church generally support this? And at one time the church was, and in many ways is still, a part of that ruling class as well. You know, the kings used the church as their arm, you know, of helping to control the people, of helping to tax the people, of helping to influence policy, ideas, and perspectives. And I think we in general have never broken away from that reliance or innocence to the influence that selfish men have, or people have, put into the religions. And you know, we're told, just follow this book, in which most people don't read, most people haven't read, most people don't study or know how to apply. But you go sit in your pew, and you let someone tell you what you're supposed to think about it, versus studying it and having a critical thought about it, and figuring out how do we implement these teachings into our own lives. So I know I probably sound a little preachy, maybe a lot preachy, but the whole thing in this is to get us to think, to get us to see critically, to get us to see out of the box, past the box, through the box, or maybe to even change the walls of the box from being opaque to see through, you know, so that we can see beyond. And if we can start to see beyond, then at some point we can start raising the windows in the box, or opening the doors of the box, or climbing out the box altogether. But at least we can see further and understand more. And how does this relate to general spirituality? And it's because even in the church, we are oftentimes told to not get involved. It is not spiritual to get involved in world affairs, right? Unless your preacher is telling you, oh yeah, we support this guy, vote for him. In general, they're like, don't pay attention to world affairs, you know, just believe these things. Believe in fighting for abortion, and believe in you know, gay people are evil. And then you are you know, you're good. As long as you believe those things and you support one group of people's and their rights above another, then, you know, you're great. You're great. You go to church. You most of the time look at people who look just like you. And so there's nothing to challenge your belief or your faith or the rightness of what you're taught. Now, that said, there are always many people who the divine moves in their hearts and their spirits, regardless of what race, what beliefs, what part of the world, what nation, what creed, or whatever. Truth is truth, and God puts truth in people's hearts. The divine puts truth in people's heart. I feel like, you know, I don't really like the term God so much, but the divine puts truth in people's hearts wherever they're from. God puts truth in our hearts from birth, you know. So most of the time, you know, people will say, oh my gosh, you know, don't ask your kids anything because they'll be honest. Don't talk to your kids about stuff in public because they will be honest. Why? Because we are born with a purity in our hearts. We are born with truth already in our hearts. We're born with a radar detector for truth and for love and for light already in our hearts. And as we grow, we are impacted by the beliefs of our parents, the beliefs of our society, and even good people have been taught so many limiting things that it makes the world really opaque. It makes spirituality really opaque, and people don't often see through to the truth. And as seekers of enlightenment and seekers to be one with the divine and seekers of true love and true light, we are equipped to shine our lights. But to shine your light, you need to be willing to go in the dark places. And in order to go in the dark places, you got to go places where things are happening and people are talking about stuff that you feel like you don't want to, like you can't hide and be light. You can, but you're not going to have that much impact. Light is most impactful when it moves through the world and it shines light in dark places. And it also shines light in light places, because sometimes people don't see how dull the light is. If you compare a 60-watt bulb to nighttime, 60-watt bulb is pretty light, right? But you compare a 100-watt bulb to that 60-watt bulb, well, there's a lot more light. You can see more stuff more clearly, and if you are even brighter than that, right, you expose more stuff, you show more shadows. But the light also kind of creates shadows too, right? When the light bounces on one thing to expose it, it creates a shadow behind it. So guys, this is stimulation. The divine wants us to be able to think critically. It wants us to be able to see with eyes that see, to listen with ears that hear, to have a mind that knows, to have a spirit that understands and that moves in truth. And in order to do that, we have to be aware. We have to sometimes be a little uncomfortable. And I'm not saying put yourself in situations where you're compromised, or to go out. I used to be in a church and we'd go out and preach, and we'd go out and share our faith, and we and I'm not saying to do anything like that, but to walk with your light wherever you are, to walk in your truth wherever you are, to walk in love wherever you are. Because the reality is that we are all one, that we are all one, which is the whole the weight and the importance behind loving other people, is because we are one. And when one person is hurting, we're all hurting. Like, I have a toothache, so my whole body is impacted by my tooth, right? Am I going to be running a marathon? Very well. If I have a really bad toothache that kept me up in the middle of the night, am I gonna be like eating the best meal? Am I gonna be chowing down, when my mouth hurts, and if I chew something on that side, then it hurts it? No, like it impacts my whole body, right? And then if you have the toothache too long, or you can get blood poisoning, you can get I think like cysts. There's all kinds of things that you can get, right? And that is what happens in society as well. When people are hurting, when one neighborhood is hurting, when one whatever country or whatever is hurting, then we are all still impacted. We are all still impacted by that. We cannot live our fullest when we allow others to be harmed, to be marginalized. And we can stand up. I mean, the most powerful thing is to stand up in truth and conviction. And there are those who will go out and march. There are those who, will do whatever, but to be a voice. right? To be a voice, to to the world, to help change the world, to help enlighten people so that they understand and can see that things that they did not before, that they have better understanding, that they can be freed from the control of the matrix, or the control of how, these religions, a lot of them have been cultified, and um and and they are controlled by fear. And and if you don't really think that, and you think like, man, this girl's really off on her box, you got to think about, like, why are there so many, I think it's the Church of the Latter-day Saints right now that's going through its own lawsuit for um physical harassment of kids, and young women and stuff like that, right? And you've had that in the we've had that in the Catholic Church, you've had that in so many churches, right? There's so much corruption, and there's so much intimate sin by people in power, right? And yet they teach their people to be afraid of the world, to be afraid of those who are different, to be afraid of those who believe different things and act in different ways or look in different ways. And yet people are most likely to be to have something negative happen to them, to those closest to them, right? To those who are trusted authorities in their lives. And why is that? It is because when the truth doesn't shine, people hold on. The darkness thrives, and people hold on to that. And who thrives in darkness? Well, it's evil that thrives in darkness. It's evil that that convinces people of self-righteousness. It's evil that that people start living one way in public and another way in private, and people, there are so many people who are traumatized, right? Who shut down when bad things happen to you in your life. There is a survival mechanism most of the times that shuts you down. And if it's something, that so often when bad things happen to us, we feel ashamed, right? And it's amazing, right? Because the people who commit those atrocities against other people don't feel ashamed at all, right? They feel justified. Why? Because they took what they wanted. They took what was theirs. They took what they desired. Why? Because they're the alpha, and they get to take whatever the heck they want to take. But yet, those who have felt the brunt of the misuse and the abuse feel guilt and feel shame, and our brains cover that stuff up, and it locks it away a lot of times, right? And so because it is so easy for those who have been mistreated to lock that stuff away, they don't stand up for themselves. They don't stand up and expose, right? Because they feel like they're the only one. But here's the truth, right? If something happens to you, it's happened to a lot of other people. If someone has done something to you, then they've done that to a lot of other people. And because when people show you who they are, believe it, because that is who they are. I had a situation happen like years ago, and in my marriage at the time, my daughter told me, like, "Mommy, why are you surprised? Liars lie." And she was like 14 or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. It was such profound truth that liars lie, abusers abuse, those who are hungry for power and for wealth and for resources do a lot of dastardly things to get that. And it's funny because in the Bible it talks about how greed is a sin, debauchery is a sin, and yet we don't ever talk about in our country. I can't say ever. Sometimes I use like extremes of always and ever, and I don't mean like that, but most often, very rarely do we talk about the greed of the billionaire class, right? The greed of people who are so wealthy, right? These corporations. And then what was it, 2015, the Supreme Court decided that or maybe it was before that, but they basically decided that these companies are people, and so these companies get treated like people. And so I think maybe they get treated like people based on how wealthy the company is, because the companies have more rights than people do, since they've been classified as persons. And they're so wealthy, but yet they poison the water, they poison the land, and then they have the citizens pay for it. The citizens have to pay for the cleanup when it's found out about. The citizens have to pay for it with their lives, as their water and their land and their resources are poisoned. The citizens pay for it with their money. The citizens pay for it with their sacrifice. The citizens pay for it with everything. And yet these corporations and these people and these entities have the ability to pay for things. They have the resources to do things where they respect Mother Earth, where they respect the land, where they respect the animals, where we work in conjunction with the earth and not against it, where we respect it and not see it as something that's disposable because we want something else. And so anyway, I just know that the divine sees all and sees everything. And we are here, many of us are here to be voices of change, to be voices of transformation, to be channels of light, to be channels of truth, to transform this world where our society works for all people and not just a few people, where our society works so that everyone can live the dream that was given to us as a birthright when we were born into this realm, into this planet, onto the planet in this realm. We are all born equitably with the same rights to live a happy, healthy, wealthy life, right? And so anyway, so all this to say, let's keep our eyes open. Let's keep our hearts open. Let's keep our minds open. And yes, another thing. So with all this darkness, like, we really need to make sure that we are cleansing ourselves, that we are cleansing our minds, that we are cleansing our hearts, that we are cleansing our environments, that we are burning candles, that we are, or lighting candles, burning candles, that we are, doing cleansing with salt water, that we are working with the air and the rain and the moon, that we are cleansing ourselves, that we are making sure that we are washing this evil off of us, and that we are not allowing it to have more impact and more space in our lives than it needs to, or that that we can be, as pure as possible, and that we are carrying our gemstones, and we're saying our prayers to keep our area clean, to keep evil at bay, right? To help us walk through the shadow without fear, right? Because we are with the divine, we are one with the divine. So there's some great gemstones: black tourmaline, obsidian, selenite, celestite. There are many others, but that word away, that block away negative energy, that help bring in positive light energy, right? That help protect our aura and our area. And let us not be comfortable in becoming self-righteous and becoming self-satisfied and becoming self-assured. Let us keep our minds open, our hearts open, and always striving to. I wonder if I turn this. Oh, my car's turned off. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that works better. I have to turn my car on the whole way, because if I don't, then my battery dies. I've had that happen too many times. But anyway, we are all in this together, and by no means do I think that I am better than anybody else. Pointing out truths and rights and wrongs doesn't make anybody better than anybody else. I don't think I'm more worthy of anything than anybody else, because we all are all born treasures, amazing treasures, and so I don't say any of this stuff to make anybody feel bad. I say this stuff because the divine wants our hearts and our minds open. The divine wants to use us as channels. The divine wants to use us as vessels to have impact in the world. And the more people that are working together to stand up for what is right, what is true, and what is love, the more powerful things can and will change. And this is the dawning of a new age, the age of Aquarius. And changes take time. Changes are chaotic. Changes hurt sometimes. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know 24 and 25, man, those years, so much stuff has happened in my life just in those 2 years, and even somewhat from 2020, so the past 5 years. But sometimes that is the catalyst for change. And when we look in our society and we see, oh my gosh, the havoc that's going on, it can be alarming, but we can also take joy in it and confidence in it, knowing that this is an opportunity for good change to come, for equitable change to come, for unity to come, for us to be the people to help change the world, and to have it where the water is clean, the air is clean, people are safe, there's no homeless people on the street. Someone said, I read the other day that there's 800,000 homeless people in the United States. I guess those are the documented ones, because I would think there's more than that. But how much would it cost, really, right, to meet the needs? Let's say 1 million. Let's say there's 2 million homeless people. Let's triple the 800,000, right? We'll say 2 million. How much would it cost, really, to meet the needs of 2 million people, right? $1 billion? I mean, they want to increase the Pentagon's budget by what, $1 trillion or something? I don't know, something crazy. 500 billion? I don't know how much, right? They haven't passed an audit in their last 8 audits, and I don't know how often they do an audit. If it's every 2 years, every 4 years, I don't know, but they don't pass. They can't account for their money. Why? Because they're doing dastardly stuff with the lives of our husbands and wives, our children who serve. They're sending them out and they're making these deals, with these companies that are weaponizing information against us. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I don't say that, again, I don't mean this to be heavy and discouraging. If it is discouraging to you, then sit on it, because it's not meant to be discouraging. It's meant to be enlightening. And sometimes enlightenment sucks. Sometimes enlightenment is joyful. But either way, it's so that we can see and that we can make decisions, better decisions of what's going on, and so that we can make better change, right? So anyway, if this in any way has stirred anything in you, leave a comment, hit the like button, help a girl out. Anyway, much love to you. I do love you. I do, because the divine loves you, because we are one. When it comes down to it, we are all one. We are all part of the same body. We are all part of the same family. And so I thank you.